Hope you're having a great Sunday. I'm a little bit washed out here. I have some brightness on here so you can see my guitar. We're going to talk about escaping the pentatonics, the irregular boxes. We're going to talk about pentatonics too, though. But wanted to let you guys know that my scale course, the scale matrix, is on sale until midnight tonight Eastern time. So you got about 9 more hours. I'm going to talk about some of the things that are in the course. Before we get started, Mike is pasting these things in. You can see where you can go. You can go to guitarscales.co to get it there. But I have some dates coming up here. You can find them on my website. Some live shows. I just came back from San Francisco, where I played at a place called the Presidio, and I interviewed Neil Schon from Journey, who's one of my favorite guitar players. Amazing. I got to say, I was kind of a little bit nervous there with Neil. I love Neil's playing so much. He's so good. And I got shows coming up in Berlin on October 25th, in Oslo. I'm actually going to look it up here so that I can tell you where it is. I've got shows in Berlin, October 25th, Stockholm the 28th, Oslo the 29th, Helsinki the November 1st, London November 3rd, and Dublin on November 5th. Hope to see you guys that live over there at these shows. If you're there, please come and say hello. And now we're going to talk about some of the things that are in the course. I'm going to pick some. I'm going to pick some particular things, some topics that are actually chapters in the course. Let's say chapter 5 is developing pentatonic sequences. So let's say that we have a C minor chord here, and I'm using the C minor pentatonic, which would be here at the 8th fret. Okay, so most people that are playing on this are going to play in that one position there. What I like to talk about is like, how do you actually break out of this, out of that position? Like, what are the positions that surround that, right? So one of the things I do is that I do these extended positions like that and show you. So I'm using 2 notes from the position below. That's what I would call, if you call this position 1, this is going to be position 5 back here. So if you're playing here, I add that one little blues note. I just bent the note there. So I bend up that flat 5, but I'm using the shape. Now that's one of the shapes that's maybe a little awkward to play. This shape that's below that, and then the shape that's above there, I would call that position 2 of C minor. So if you just take the shapes that are around that, and then take some of the different arpeggios that are actually in there and make these like kind of composite scales that are still using the pentatonic note. So I use this. So I'm using this like, it'd be like an E flat, sus2. Now I added one extra note there at the end. But these notes are in the pentatonic scale, but I'm using some different, I'm taking these, instead of all the notes in sequence, I'm skipping a couple notes. So I skipped this note G here. I added this extra note A there. But this that's a cool. So I've got B flats, this little chord shape here, and I'm using that chord shape there. I'm basically just skipping a couple notes. I skipped the G there. And that is all in the pentatonic, right? So if I, so I did. So I'm using this, thinking of shapes. If I'm adding that one extra note. I added an extra note there. That note A, I added the note A there. Don, the Bishop 55, let's hear that here. But of course, buy it today. You'll seriously regret it if you don't. I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I've learned so much from it. Don, you're awesome. It's a lot of this stuff is things that I learned from learning what I thought were really interesting solos when I was a kid. When I would take apart a solo, I would always try to find little bits and pieces of shapes of scales and things like that to use them and then kind of analyze why they worked, why they were interesting. If I have that C minor chord, so I'm thinking this. I love that. And I'm using some intervals. I talk a lot about this in the course too, about using so these intervals, I'm taking these shapes. So I've just taken this C minor scale, the C Dorian scale, but I'm using these intervals that I go over when I talk about practicing just the major scale, and taking intervals like, for example, sixths, right? So I'm doing. So these intervals, those intervals, And I'm using some different kind of shapes. Those are kind of cool. Those little... So, all this practice of these intervals, instead of just going... Now you should do that. You should go. You should practice these scales. Go up one, down the next, up the next, down the next. Right? Those things are really important to do. You got to get these things under the fingers. Okay. Practice the 5 shapes of the C minor pentatonic. Practice the 5 shapes of the C major pentatonic. Once you do that, you realize they're the same shapes. They're just moved to a different position. C minor and E flat major have all the exact same notes. They just start in a different place. That's C minor and then E flat major. Same notes, right? And you just start either on C and play C, E flat, F, G, B flat, or you go E flat, F, G, B flat, C. I went down that E flat major when I went up E flat major. I came down that E flat major triad, and that's one of the things that I like to practice when I'm doing these scales, is not just do the scale, not just do the mode, but practice the chords in sequence. That sequence with the chord. So if I'm playing in B flat major, right? So if I'm playing, I like to play the chord shape first. And then I play the arpeggio next. Then I go to the second chord. And I play the scale, C Dorian. And then come down the arpeggio that goes with it. Then D Phrygian, and then E flat Lydian. And then you go up to F mixolydian. I came down the arpeggio, up the scale, down the arpeggio, up the scale, down the arpeggio. Combining these things and knowing where the scale degrees are and where the notes of the chord are incredibly important to your playing, right? If I'm playing in this C minor pentatonic shape there, I want to know where that's where the C minor arpeggio, those are the chord tones. Root, third, the flat third, fifth, root, flat third, fifth, root, flat third, fifth. But if I'm going, so I'm coming back, I'm ending these phrases. Jason, what did he say actually happens in 9 hours? So the sale, this week's sale for $79, which is 50% off, is over at midnight tonight. It's a great time to take advantage of it. It's not coming back at that price. And if you go to guitarscales.com, Mike pasted in a link right there. You can open up another browser link there and put it in there. Dean asked, did I talk to Neil about the Stone in Love solo? Of course I did, Dean. Neil played the Stone in Love solo, which was amazing. So it's interesting too, because Neil and I talked about this, about learning about how he learned solos and where did he, how did he learn the scales that go along with that are beyond the pentatonic scales. And he frankly listened to a lot of fusion like I did. Neil's 7 years older than me, I think. So we really had very similar influences in playing. And if you were listening to these records that we were listening to, they had a lot more sophisticated things. I mean, he brought up that when I taught this Gino Vanelli solo, Eye of the Beholder, I think it was. Or no, the Evil Eye, is that what it was? It's a Carlos Rios solo, and then I did the Brother to Brother solo. And these have some really complicated licks in them. And he uses that, like that one Gino Vanelli thing uses the altered dominant scale in it. And that's how I first learned that. Altered dominant scale is like if I have G7 sharp 9, that Hendrix, That's it. That altered dominant scale was a scale that people played. It's called Super Locrian also. I just love that scale for that chord. Beautiful right there. So that's that scale all over the neck. It's learning this. That's learning that melodic minor scale, which is another one of the chapters. So I have a whole thing on melodic minors on here. The melodic minor is chapter 13, when I talk about how to learn the 7 modes, the 7 positions up the neck of melodic minor. So I'm playing a G7 sharp 9 chord. I'm playing this A flat melodic minor scale. I'm playing it off the note G. It's because that's a 7th mode on it. But there are 7. There's 7 positions. So. And getting those things under your fingers is very tricky at first. One of the things about the melodic minor scale is a major scale with just the flatted third. So if I take an A flat major scale and I flat the third note of the scale, keep all the other notes the same. Because if you play that scale, the A flat major scale, and it's so ingrained in your hand for so many years, it's hard to get. It's hard to actually flat that third note of the scale because you have these patterns ingrained, so you have to really practice these things even more to get them under your fingers. To really get that. So I have a lot of tricks in the kind of ways to memorize these shapes that are in the course, the modes of the melodic minor, and then I go over the theory of when you use these scales and stuff. A lot, some of these things are used on chords that to me are really interesting, like the major 7 sharp 5 chord and stuff like that, or these altered chords, these dominant sharp 9s that you find in a lot of music. If I have that chord, that's a great chord. So I use that G7 sharp 9 scale, the altered dominant scale. Right into that, back in that C minor pentatonic. So that's a Dorian scale there. And that's a beautiful C minor sound, Dorian. You can have Aeolian. That's Aeolian, beautiful. Love that. Well, that's nice. I like that. That's cool. That's hard to play. Let's see. Yeah, so these things are that is actually I don't think I ever played that. It's funny that I have it under my fingers now, just after practicing it a little bit. That's just beautiful sounding. If I just played it over a C minor chord. So really the goal of this, of putting together this course, is kind of coming up with a systematic way to work on your scales. And obviously you want to be able to go up and down them in across the whole neck, right? If you're in G major, you want to be able to go to play that G major. I want to be able to play that everywhere in open position, closed position. But you also want to be able to play these things where you use some really interesting intervals and stuff like that. Is to you know, where you kind of just get out of these typical licks that you might play. Thank you, Yukon V. Really appreciate it. And this is the these are kind of things that I've developed over my playing career, is to try to come up with stuff that are my own ways that I teach. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that. So in the scale matrix, it's like, how do you take these things? Not only where are the fingering positions, where are the roots of every scale in there, right? But also, how do you use this stuff? What chords do they go over? How do you create cool sequences and things like that, where you're not just playing things that you've played a million times before? How do you actually start extending these scales and playing stuff that is kind of like I did there, where I was like, or now I know that all those notes are in Dean asked, Rick, is it easier to think, let's see this, Dean, what are you asking here? Think of an altered scale as a seventh mode melodic minor or a diminished whole tone from the root. Well, that's a great question, Dean. So it's funny because when I learned the altered scale, my first guitar teacher called it the diminished whole tone scale. And it's actually, it's weird to refer to it. He's the only person, and it's kind of a Rochester thing. And the reason they called it a diminished whole tone scale is that that it starts with a diminished scale, a dominant diminished. So let's say you've got G7 sharp 9 here. So it goes half step, whole step, half step, whole step. So that's the first part of a dominant. That's the first part of a dominant diminished scale, but then it goes into a whole tone scale. There's your whole tone. So it's half of a diminished scale, half of a whole tone scale. But I always thought of that as a that was confusing, because it's kind of it's just its own sequence there. It's I just thought of it as its own note sequence, and thought of it as Superlocrian or altered dominant. The reason we call it altered dominant is because it has the 1 flat 9 sharp 9 of G7, right? So you got the G7 flat 9. Here's a flat 9 sharp 9, right? And then you have the third. Then you have the flat 5 sharp 5. Flat 5 sharp 5. So it's got all the altered notes in it. It's got the root, sharp, flat 9 sharp 9, major third, flat 5 sharp 5, really sharp 4 sharp 5, flat 7, back to the root. Don, Rick, chords explains everything. The chords, the scales, arpeggios, how they link together. That's exactly right. So I go through the scale. I go through the modes of the major scale, the melodic minor scale, the harmonic minor scale. I talk about the augmented scale, the diminished scale, the whole tone scale, the pentatonic scale, the blues scale, and how to play them everywhere on the neck. And then also how to find where they are, like where the roots are in the chords, right? So if I'm playing in G, if I'm playing down here in G, let's say just G minor pentatonic. But I know there, those are the roots in the scale. So I know that are the roots there. And then where else are the G roots? So you have to really be able to I used to practice this thing when I was I used to practice octaves like just to get them under my fingers like that. It's so I would know. I know that's the root there. And so I go through all that stuff in here. There are, I'm looking over at it right now, 21 different chapters in here. And it's, you can get it for $79 till midnight tonight. So there's about 8 hours left, 8.5 hours left or so. And once again, I don't do ad reads in my channel, because the only thing I advertise are my own courses. So it's like, not only does it help you become a better musician and learn to play better, but it also is a way that you can support what I do here, which I really appreciate. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate you spending your Sunday here with me. I got some other stuff coming up here soon. A couple other big interviews that I can't tell you about, but you'll like them. Anyways, you guys are the best. Talk to you later. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.